I didn't want to get passed around anymore, Nita stated in an NBC News article on March 21st, 2014. Nita was rehomed 4 times in a 2-year time frame, shortly after she was adopted from Haiti. Her adoptive mother relocated her because she felt that she could no longer handle Nita's needs. Nita was sexually and mentally abused at one of the houses, and when she confided in an adult about the abuse, she was relocated once again. Rehoming is the process of when an adoptive parent puts their adoptive child online to relocate homes. Rehoming is done over the internet on discussion groups. Statistics show that there's 1 child per week on average that is relocated homes, which is considered rehoming. Rehoming is a dangerous and devastating act to many foreign adopted children that their adoptive parents put them through because they feel that they can no longer handle the child. There are many problems with rehoming. In order to solve these problems, we need to realize what causes them, and the government and adoption agencies need to step up to provide these families and children the support and security that they need. Many individuals choose to do this private rehoming practice rather than going through adoption agencies because it is a much cheaper and faster process than going through the official way. Marina Levine in the LA Times stated that the process of rehoming is cheaper and less time-consuming than formal adoption, which requires background checks, home inspections, and training. The first problem with child rehoming is the safety of the children. Originally, rehoming was used to find pets a new home. However, it has become more popular for adoptive parents to place their adoptive child in these sites instead of going back through the adoption agency. Nicholas Kristof stated in the New York Times on November 20th, 2013, that rehoming now refers to families recycling their adoptive children, often through the internet. Rehoming takes place over the internet, normally on Facebook or Yahoo or various other sites, and these discussion boards. Essentially, they're putting these wanted signs up for their children to just give away. Stephen Pennypacker, a child welfare official in Florida, stated that you don't know who you're dealing with on the other end of the chat board. Pedophiles can be on the other end of these chat boards, and parents just really don't know because they are normally not doing background checks on these people that they're giving their adoptive children to, so they don't really know who their child is going to end up with in the end. One man is in prison shortly after he picked up a 10-year-old boy in a hotel parking lot for child pornography because these parents that gave the boy to the man didn't do any background checks on him. The second problem with child rehoming is the issues that the children and the family go through, which ultimately lead to the rehoming. Many of these children are going through emotional and behavioral problems. About 70% of them are foreign adopted children, and so they are trying to cope with coming to the country and getting in the groove of their new lifestyle, and it could be very difficult for them. Destiny Roman stated in the Houston Law Review that the majority of these children, at least 70%, were born overseas, and many were described as dealing with some sort of issue stemming from their lives pre-adoption. So once these children get home and their parents get home with them, they begin to feel overwhelmed, especially when they start acting out because they don't know what to do, especially when they're first-time parents. These children that are being adopted are trying to cope with their new lifestyle, and it gets difficult, and especially if there's a language barrier, then they're trying to deal with their new parents and their new lifestyle, and there's a language barrier between them. Nicholas Kristof also talked to a mother who, after she had rehomed her 12-year-old daughter, and she felt that she could not handle her daughter anymore, and she stated that she was so desperate to give her child away that she would have given her up to a serial killer. Nita was sexually abused by one of her fathers at one of the homes she was relocated at, and it wasn't a big deal because then that family just relocated her again, so it was a big feeling of unwantedness. One of the causes that there's rehoming is that there's little to no government oversight. Leslie Gordon stated in an ABA journal in December of 2014 that the process of rehoming has been largely unregulated. No federal laws prohibit the exchange of unwanted adopted kids. There are no punishments or no laws against rehoming. Actually, in many states in the United States, private adoption or rehoming is legal, and there are laws that go with custody of children and the advertising of children, but none of them speak to rehoming. Reuters did a study in July of 2014 and stated that state laws that restrict the advertising and custody of transfers of children rarely prescribe criminal sanctions and are frequently ignored. So many of the laws that are in place, they're overlooked, and officials really aren't trained to go with these laws, so it's really not put in place at all. The second cause is that there's little support from adoption agencies. There's a lack of support, even though adoption agencies, when they're going through the first initial adoption, they support the agencies before, during, and after the adoption, but they lack a lot of support once the children are home with their families. This is hard, especially when there's a language barrier again, and when parents are starting to feel overwhelmed once they get home. There's a lack of regulations and support in order to have a healthy lifestyle together once they get home. The government and adoption agencies need to work together and provide the support and security that's needed for the families. The first solution to child rehoming is to make it a federal law that rehoming is not possible. The government needs to get more heavily involved and start looking at these sites that these children are being put on to give away. There's no state laws that are implemented, so since there's no state laws, there needs to be a federal law that goes for all states that makes this practice, to not let this practice happen. They also can make a crime if they make a law out of this, and with the crime they could do jail time or fines to make this stick in place and people not want to do it. Leslie Gordon also stated that when if they made this a crime, parents would simply think that I can't do this, so they wouldn't do this anymore. If they did make a law, then they need to enforce the punishments on it, and once the rehoming process ended or mostly ended, then pedophiles wouldn't have as easy access to these children as they do now. The second solution to child rehoming is that adoption agencies need to give more support to the families. Post-adoption, especially when they get home, they could have classes, support groups, or home checkups for each individual as a family, just for the parents and just for the kids, to provide support to each individual member, which would help a lot with the process of rehoming. Reuters stated in May, Health and Human Service officials warned states about the dangers of the practice and encouraged them to use existing federal funding to support struggling adoptive families. By them using the additional funds, that would just give the agencies more leeway to help these families and provide them the support that they have to stop rehoming altogether. The ABA journal states that kids shouldn't be in wanted ads like, "Our dog just had puppies, want one for free?" Child rehoming is very heart-wrenching. It's difficult for the kids to adjust and for the parents to adjust when the kids get home after being adopted. It's a feeling of no one wants them when their parents start to give them away, and no one likes feeling that way, so we need to stop the process of going so everyone can feel wanted. Officials need to step up and find a solution to stop child rehoming and start providing the support and security that these children and family need. Thank you.